Eleanor May Collins bent forward in the tall summer grass, breath shaking, fingers digging into the dirt as if the earth itself might steady her. Caleb Walker knelt close behind her, one hand firm at her thigh, the other hovering. "Careful, deliberate, easy," she whispered, voice tight and breathless. "This is my first time." He leaned in, close enough that she felt his breath warm at her ear. "It'll be over quick," he murmured. Anyone watching from the road could have gotten the wrong idea. Her breath hitched, and the way he held her looked almost too intimate for the open prairie. From a distance, it could have sounded like a secret moment, not an emergency. But Eleanor wasn't shaking from desire. She was shaking because something sharp had torn her leg. And if he messed this up out here, she might not make it at all. Eleanor gasped, sharp and sudden, and her knees nearly gave way. Caleb did not pull back. He did not rush. He stayed right there, solid, grounding her weight with his own. "Don't move," he said softly. Then she cried out, and Caleb saw the blood for real. Dark red spread across the thin white fabric at the back of her thigh, soaking fast where a rusted barb had torn her when she fell against the fence. No pretty way to say it. It was deep enough to need stitches, and dirty enough to turn deadly if they waited. Caleb had seen men lose a leg to less, and he wasn't about to watch it happen to her. Caleb's eyes dropped, not with hunger, but with focus. "This is bad," he said, low and controlled. He tore a strip from his bandana and pressed it hard against the wound, firm enough to stop the blood, gentle enough not to break her trust. Caleb Walker was 48, broad-shouldered, weathered by sun and dust, a man shaped by long days and longer silences. Eleanor May Collins was 22, shaking with pain and fear, and unused to a man's hands touching her without cruelty, hiding behind them. When he steadied her, it was not possession. It was protection. When his fingers slipped closer to her skin, it was not desire. It was necessity. The prairie lay open and merciless around them, the windmill turning slow near Caleb's fence line, the heat pressing down without apology. No one else came running. No one else came to help. Caleb lifted her carefully onto his horse and turned toward his ranch near the Cimarron, his hand firm at her back. "Hold on," he said. Eleanor didn't know whether she was riding toward safety or riding straight into the next kind of trouble. She did not know yet about the needle waiting by his fire. She did not know about Thomas Collins, the brother who would come looking for her with lies and fists. And as the horse started forward, one question burned louder than the pain in her leg. Was this the moment that saved Eleanor May Collins, or the moment that would destroy both of them? The ride to Caleb Walker's ranch felt longer than it was, every step of the horse sending a dull reminder through Eleanor May Collins' leg. She kept one hand tight on the saddle horn and the other pressed against the bandana Caleb had tied there, already dark with blood. Caleb rode slow, steady, one hand on the reins, the other ready in case she slipped. "You're doing fine, Pa," he said, like he'd said it 100 times before to frightened animals and tired people. She nodded, even though she wasn't sure she believed him yet. Her vision kept narrowing, and she fought the dark like it was an enemy on her heels. The ranch came into view just as the sun began to sink. A low wooden house, a windmill creaking, horses shifting in the corral. Caleb helped her down with care, keeping his hands where she could see them, letting her move at her own pace. Inside, the air smelled of soap, leather, and boiled coffee. He sat her on the edge of the bed and set to work without fuss. Water heated on the stove. He kept glancing at the door, because out here, trouble liked to show up when your hands were busy. A needle and thread laid out beside a bottle of whiskey, not for drinking, but for cleaning. No medicine out here besides heat, clean water, and luck. Caleb boiled everything twice, then poured whiskey over the needle like he didn't trust fate one bit. He scrubbed his hands with lye soap, then rinsed them clean. "This is going to sting," he said. She tried to laugh, but it came out thin. "Figures," she said. When the cloth was lifted, she hissed through her teeth, then froze. He noticed immediately. "Breathe," he said. "You don't owe the pain anything." When the needle touched her skin, her fingers clenched in the blanket. "Easy," she whispered again. softer than before. "This is my first time." Caleb nodded like that explained everything. "It'll be over quick," he said, and this time she believed him. He let her see the needle in his fingers, then went right back to work. He slipped the needle in, steady and sure. His focus locked on the work, not on her body. Between stitches, she gave him the short version. A brother with debts, and a town that treated her like payment. Caleb didn't interrupt. He didn't offer promises he couldn't keep. He just listened and kept stitching. When it was done, he tied the final knot and leaned back. "All set," he said, but Caleb's eyes stayed on the bandage because the real fight might start after the stitching was done. She let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. He wrapped the bandage carefully and stood, giving her space. "You can stay," he added, like it was no big thing. "As long as you need." He didn't ask for her story first, and that's what made her believe him. Eleanor looked around the room, at the quiet walls, the single lamp, the door that locked from the inside. For the first time in a long while, she felt the edge of sleep pulling at her, but somewhere beyond the fence line, a man who thought he owned her was already starting to look. That night her skin went hot and cold. Caleb sat by the bed and watched her breathe like a man counting seconds. By morning, he would know if this was just fear or the start of an infection. And when he found this place, would Caleb Walker still be able to keep her safe? On the third morning after the stitches, Eleanor May Collins woke to the sound of wind turning the mill and a smell that made her stomach growl. Coffee, real coffee, not boiled hope in a tin cup. Her leg ached, but it was a clean ache now, the kind that meant healing had started. She tried to stand once, turned pale, and sat back down hard. Caleb didn't argue. 2 days in bed, he said, then short steps only. She sat up slow and noticed the small things first. The door closed proper, a chair set close enough to reach if she needed it, and a folded note on the table that read, "I'll be out back if you wake." Caleb slept on a cot near the stove, not in her room. "You'll have space here," he said. "I won't cross it." By the third day, Caleb Walker was mending fence when she stepped onto the porch, moving careful but proud she could stand on her own. She spent the morning doing what she could from one spot, shelling beans into a bowl on her lap, folding clean cloth for bandages, counting every slow breath like it was a job. When her leg throbbed, she didn't whine. She asked for a cane instead of a hand. By afternoon, she told him more, not all at once, just enough to let the truth breathe. She spoke about Thomas Collins, her older brother, and how he changed after their parents died, how debts started showing up faster than paychecks, how men at the edge of Dodge City began calling her an answer instead of a person. Caleb listened, wiping his hands on a rag, eyes steady, jaw tight but quiet. "He won't stop." She said, "No." Caleb answered, "Men like that don't." Later that day, a rider passed the far fence line and slowed, just long enough to look. He wasn't lost. He was counting horses, windows, and the way back. If you're still with me, hit subscribe now. Because what happens next is the kind of trouble folks in Kansas still talk about. Tell me what time it is where you are and where you're listening from. And if you've got a cup of tea or coffee nearby, take a sip and settle in. Caleb saw it too. He did not wave. He did not call out. He simply watched until the dust settled and the road went empty again. That night he checked the locks twice and set a lantern by the door, not to scare her, to tell her she mattered. They shared supper without ceremony. Beans, bread, a little meat. Caleb told a story about a horse that learned to open gates and cause trouble all over 3 counties. Eleanor laughed. Real laughter. The kind that surprises you when it comes back. Before turning in, Caleb said, "If anyone comes asking, you don't owe them an answer." She nodded, grateful he did not pretend this was simple. As she lay down, the ranch quiet around her, she realized safety was not just a place. It was a choice someone made for you when you could not make it for yourself. Because out beyond that fence line, Thomas Collins was coming. And Caleb could already feel the kind of trouble that doesn't knock politely. Still, The next sound they heard wasn't a coyote or the wind. It was a man coming up the walk like he owned the place. The knock came just after midday, firm and unhurried, like the man on the other side already knew the answer. Caleb Walker wiped his hands on a rag and stepped onto the porch, eyes scanning the yard before the door was fully open. 2 horses stood at the fence, one rider still mounted, the other already on the ground. Eleanor May Collins felt it before she saw him, the tight pull in her chest, the name rising like a bruise. The sound of his boots in the dirt told her the past had finally caught up. "Caleb Walker," Thomas Collins said, smiling like he had a right to be there. "I'm here for my sister." Eleanor moved to the doorway, slow but steady, her bandaged leg reminding her of every step. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. Thomas laughed, short and sharp. "You don't get to decide that." Caleb stayed calm. "You've said your piece," he replied. "Time to move on." Thomas's smile dropped. He stepped closer, hand drifting toward his belt, eyes never leaving Eleanor. "You hiding her now," he said. "That makes you part of this." The first shove came quick. Thomas pushed Caleb hard, trying to catch him off balance. Caleb took the hit, feet planted, and answered with a grip that stopped things from going further. The mounted rider slid down, reaching for his own nerve. Eleanor shouted, but her voice got swallowed by dust and boots. Caleb did not swing first, but when Thomas came again, Caleb had no choice. Thomas rushed him with a knife he tried to hide behind his sleeve. Caleb caught the wrist, took a cut across his own knuckles, and still kept the blade away from Eleanor. They slammed into the fence hard enough to rattle the boards. Caleb wrenched the knife free and kicked it into the dirt. The second man hovered like a coyote that hadn't decided yet. Then old Mr. Harlan from the next spread stepped up with a shotgun and said, "That's far enough. After that." The second man remembered an urgent reason to stay out of it. Neighbors gathered at the fence line, drawn by noise and dust. Someone shouted that Thomas struck first. Another said they saw the knife. That was enough to take him to town. Caleb tied Thomas's hands and hauled him to his feet. "You'll answer for this in town," Caleb said. Thomas spat dirt and smiled anyway. By sundown, they got Thomas into town with his hands tied and his temper loose. The lawman didn't believe anybody at first. Then he saw the knife, saw the blood on Caleb's knuckles, and heard 3 witnesses say the same thing. Only then did the cuffs come out. In the quiet after, Eleanor realized Caleb hadn't just protected her body. He'd protected her right to choose. Caleb rode back alone, the ranch quiet when he returned. Eleanor waited on the porch, fear and relief tangled together. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes," he answered, simple as truth. "I did." But as the stars came out, one question lingered between them. Had the danger passed, or had it only just begun? Now that Thomas Collins knew exactly where to find her. The days that followed were quieter, but not empty. A full week passed before Caleb even let himself look at her too long. Caleb Walker did not act like a hero, and Eleanor May Collins did not act like someone rescued. They moved through the ranch together. Slow mornings, shared work, small conversations that mattered more than speeches. He fixed a broken gate. She learned how to salt meat without wasting it. Life settled into a rhythm that felt earned. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the grass gold, Eleanor stood by the fence watching the horses move easy and free. "I've never stayed anywhere 'cause I chose it," she said. Caleb leaned beside her, forearms resting on the rail. "First time for everything," he replied. Not teasing, just honest. One night, when the wind softened and the house held its breath, she stepped closer to him. There was no rush, no fear. Just a quiet understanding that something had grown between them without either forcing it. When Caleb reached for her, he waited. When Eleanor lifted her face, she decided. Caleb stopped and asked, "Is this what you want?" He didn't move until she nodded. Eleanor answered by taking his hand and bringing him to her. No hesitation left. Their kiss was slow and certain, not born of loneliness, but of respect. like two people finally standing on equal ground. Eleanor stayed, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she wanted to build something where she stood. Caleb learned that being strong did not mean standing alone. Sometimes it meant letting someone walk beside you. The lesson was simple, but not easy. You are not owned by your past. You are not defined by the worst thing someone tried to do to you. Safety is not just walls and locks. It is trust. It is choice. It is someone saying you matter and meaning it. If you have ever wondered whether it is too late to start again, let Eleanor and Caleb answer that for you. If you have ever stayed somewhere out of fear instead of hope, ask yourself, what might happen if you chose differently? And if someone once told you that you belonged to them, who would you be if you believed instead that you belonged to yourself? In the West, a good man wasn't measured by how hard he hit. He was measured by what he refused to do when nobody was watching. If this story moved you, take a moment to tap like and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep these stories alive and reaching the people who need them. And before you go, I would love to know, what time is it where you are right now? And where are you listening from? Because somewhere out there, someone is standing at the edge of a new beginning, just like Eleanor once did, wondering if one brave choice can change everything.